Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Glad to meet you. We're going to be doing an interview for Nothaven Voices, and we thank you so much for volunteering to help us out by telling us a little bit about yourselves.
Well, thanks for the invitation.
Yeah.
How long have you been members of Northaven?
20 years.
20 years.
21 years this coming June.
Yeah, so 21 and a half.
Yeah.
And you know, in Dallas, you have thousands of churches to choose from. What attracted you to Northaven?
Well, it was obvious that it's a theology. When I retired, weren't too many choices then about where we wanted to go, where we could go. Thought we'd look around. We went to Northaven, just stayed. It's all because of the theological position. That was the main thing for us.
Okay, so you heard what they had to say, and you wanted to continue to hear what they had to say, right?
Yeah, you're right.
Well,
right. Well,
since Ben was a member of the annual conference for 39 years, we knew about Northaven.
Mm-hmm.
And Carolyn Melton was our neighbor in Richardson. Our kids went to school together. And we knew that she went to Northaven, and I think I had taken some courses at Perkins and carpooled with people from Northaven. I mean, there were people at Northaven that we already knew, and I knew Kathy Johnson, who was the choir director, organist professionally, and it's just it was like a friend.
So you were like coming home.
Yeah, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. Well, while Ben was busy preaching and writing and reading and doing all the things that he does to keep an active church alive, what were you doing?
Well, I was mainly in staff position, Christian education.
Okay. Well,
yeah, he did
doing lots of stuff then that I didn't even mention.
But you asked me what I was doing?
Yes.
Well, in addition to, running household and raising children and stuff like that, I kind of serendipitously ended up through the Sunday school getting into early childhood. And I taught preschool first at First Methodist in Grand Prairie, and then after we moved to Richardson, I taught at Christ Methodist in Plano before I was on the staff at First Methodist Richardson in Christian education in younger children's ministry. And then I branched out and was doing early childhood stuff outside the church, but I still considered it ministry because we were always working on providing quality experiences for children based on the best science, the best research we had about child development.
Okay, so that also is a task that will never end, I suspect.
And along the way, I became first a diaconal minister and a deacon. So I'm ordained as a deacon in the Methodist Church.
Great. Thank you. So 20 years at Northaven, that is really exciting to even think about 20 years of Northaven sermons, because I've only had 3. And I think I'd be a lot smarter and a lot kinder and a lot more everything if I had just had 20. So congratulations.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about one of your happiest moments?
Oh, goodness.
What makes you happy? It doesn't even have to be a moment. It could be just a second.
Well, the times that I most enjoy, let me put it that way.
Okay.
I enjoy a good teaching discussion session. I enjoy working with my hands, doing lots of different kinds of things. I enjoy being outside. I just enjoy those times.
Are you a gardener?
No, not really.
No,
I take care of a plant, but don't consider myself a gardener. I really one plant from the other, partly. But.
Okay. How about you, Karen?
I enjoy being a mother, raising children. I enjoy teaching, whether it's children or adults. I really like teaching adults a lot. I enjoy cooking, and in recent years, am seriously into genealogy. And this week, well, I had sent a message to somebody that I'm related to, that she had the wrong person for our second great grandmother. And I framed it very,
Don't go there.
be quiet. I framed it very politely. Like, I'm confused. Why do you have this person? And my family Bible says this person. But we've kind of started a conversation which may lead to a fun time with both of us working on the same question.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that sounds complicated. It's okay. Complicated is okay.
When people copy off other people's family trees that are not documented, then you get all kinds of mistakes.
Don't get her started on genealogy.
Genealogy charlatans. That's an interesting concept.
They're not charlatans. They're just not well informed.
Okay. They need a clue. Buy a vowel. Carry on. Absolutely. How would you describe your spiritual journey? I know you're church people. How would you describe your journey as you matured and grew?
You want to go first?
I'll go first if you want me to. Well, I am a fifth generation, at least, Methodist. At least 5 generations of one part of my family have been Methodists. And my parents were what they called modern Christians. They wanted no yelling on the pulpit, no banging on the pulpit, and no preaching about sin. So if we went to church, it was to a modern church. And when we came to Dallas in the 50s, we ended up at Lover's Lane with Tom Shipp, whose outreach was to alcoholics. And he was a modern preacher kind of person. I have to say, for spiritual development, the years we moved to Richardson when I was in junior high, and the years I spent in MYF, going to church camp sometimes. It's interesting, back in those days, First Richardson had a Sunday evening service that was a very, pietistic. We sang out of the Cokesbury hymnal, and there was a lot of talk about prayer, and it really influenced me to do daily Bible reading and daily prayer. And I developed some practices, which unfortunately, once I left home, kind of, evaporated. But I think it was a good grounding for developing a relationship with God that has stayed with me through the years, despite my not practicing the practices that I know I should.
Okay. How about you, Ben?
Well, I was raised in Methodist Church in Terrell, and was very loved there. So I gained a very deep attachment to the church. I didn't intend to go in the ministry, but after I got to college and had some influences there, I decided to go in the ministry. And then over the course of time, began to grow in various kinds of ways, and began to understand the necessity of accepting God's love for me. And then when I was at Lover's Lane, I was able to go to Shalem Institute Spiritual Direction, and that pretty well got me deeper into the spiritual disciplines and those ways. And that's been a spiritual director, and enjoy helping people in the spiritual life. And my personal spiritual life changes year by year, but it grows and keeps going.
Mm-hmm. Now, are both of you teaching at Northaven in some capacity right now?
Yes.
What are you doing, Karen?
Well, when we have Sunday school,
Mm-hmm.
I teach the preschool Sunday school class, which is children 2, 3, and 4. I also serve, because when a staff person left, I took over the duties of what I call the Sunday school coordinator. Mm-hmm. So I recruit teachers and get curriculum and do that administrative stuff so that there are teachers there who do a wonderful job and support them and enjoy the preschoolers.
Bravo. Bravo. How about you, Ben? Are you teaching?
I teach adult classes from time to time, not all the time, but almost all the time.
Almost all the time.
And I have a regular Monday night class. It meets fall and in winter, spring, every year.
And what do you discuss in that class? Or
it's a class that started way back, 11 years ago, I think now. And with Beyond the Living the Questions course that introduces people to progressive theology. So our task is to continue to understand what that means. And we branch out and do all sorts of things in that class. We've gotten political lately and that kind of thing. So, you know,
wow.
It's a very wide-ranging group.
And it involves people from other churches.
Yeah,
not just Northaven.
Yeah, there's more people from other churches than there are from Northaven.
Yeah.
So a wide range of questions, I guess, and topics to talk about.
Oh, yeah.
And I guess that kind of is the whole idea about being progressive, right? It's listening, understanding people's ideas might be different than yours without judgment.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's a big job. Thank you. Thank you. Can you think of one Bible story or one scripture that is your all-time favorite? And if you can't think of one, I won't charge you for two. So, but is there something that sticks in your mind every time you need to grasp onto something?
Well, one that comes to me a lot is kind of an obscure passage, and I can't remember now which book it's in.
That's
okay. It's in Joshua.
This isn't a quiz. It's okay.
Where God says to Joshua, "Be determined in confidence, confident because I'm with you." And it's very important to be determined and confident. Then from there, I go to stuff from Paul. I have a lot of stuff in Paul that I remember a lot. Romans, Corinthians.
Yes. Okay, Karen?
Well, Corinthians is important, but also, recently in working on Sunday school curriculum, was going through the Sermon on the Mount again and thinking, if we would just do these things. But the other thing that recently I keep going back to is in the first chapter of the Gospel of John, where he talks about the light shines in the darkness and the darkness has not been able to overcome the light. And I've really kind of, during this really tumultuous time in history, I've really held on to that the light. And then recently, Revelation is not my favorite book, but with everything that's happened and everything that with the new administration in Washington, this kind of thing, I've been saying, we're going to have a new heaven and a new earth. I mean, with the demonstrations and the opening up of people really talking about the systemic nature of racism and the problems with police and all these systemic things that we never talked about before in a new administration, like we could have a whole new earth if we do the right thing.
Well, I'm excited.
So currently that's maybe not all-time favorites, but those are the ones that I've been
That's what I think, that no matter who I'm talking to, if I ask a question like that, it's always everybody, it seems to me, has that one thing you kind of hang on to, that when you need something to hang on to. And so your verses and your stories are eloquent. So thank you for sharing that. And who knows who will hear this and maybe look it up and hang on to them again. You know, it could happen. It could happen. Okay, we know that you've been in the church for 20 years, and we kind of know a little bit about your backgrounds. An interesting question to answer might be, how has your life been different than you ever imagined it would be?
Oh gosh, go ahead if you have something.
Well, as I used to tell my students when we were talking about family life, my life has been different because the world changed after we'd been married about 10 years. You know, when I got married, I was Mrs. Ben Marshall. And then about 10 years later, or less than that really, women were beginning to use their own name. And women were beginning to, you know, especially college educated women, before, when I was in college, well, actually, we felt sorry for anybody who was graduating who didn't at least know who they were going to marry. You know, you needed to be married. You need your college education. You get married. You have 2.5 children, and you do volunteer work the rest of your life. That was kind of, even though my mother worked most of my life, that was kind of the model. And so things changed in the 70s. And women began to really think about, oh, you know, I could teach. One of my friends said, well, you know, I could teach preschool while my children are in school and they wouldn't even miss me. You know, it was that kind of approach to having a career. And women began to think more and more about what they could do. And yes, they could be married and have a family and this kind of thing. And they could also do other things. So, I never, well, maybe for the most part, never thought that I would have, you know, a career kind of thing.
Yeah, that's a big change. Congratulations. Yeah. And you got a name too.
Yes.
The process.
Actually, somebody in a bank in Las Vegas. We were there visiting my aunt and uncle, and I needed some cash. In those days, you know, we went to my uncle's bank and I was able to write a check to get cash. And signed my name, Mrs. Ben Marshall. And the teller said, you need to use your own name because someday somebody else might be Mrs. Ben Marshall and that might be a problem for you. Like, really?
And for Ben, as a matter of fact.
But it just got me thinking, well, why not use my own name? My mother said, are you not proud of his name? I said, well, yes, I use his last name every day. But I do have a first name and he has a first name. And so I'm going to use my first name.
Bravo. Ben, do you want to respond to that?
Well, that was a hard one because anything I didn't expect to have to change. I guess really the only thing that I didn't really think it would come that quickly was getting older and my body changing as I get older, but I thought it would last a lot longer than it has.
That's all I'm going to say, but go ahead.
Right. That's it.
Well, he's planning to live to be more than 100. So his, you know, problems that he has now is like, no, it's too early for this.
Oh.
All right.
Okay. All right. That makes sense now. What do you feel most grateful for in your lives?
I feel most grateful for the people who supported and cared for me, especially my wife.
Glad you added that, Ben.
More importantly, my wife, I guess you'd say. More fully, my wife.
I'm grateful for my husband. And then for all of the opportunities that really the two of us have had in terms of places to work and places to live and people to know, that has been really more than I ever thought. You know, he was on the staff at Lover's Lane for 10 years, and that was a really neat experience in that church at that time. And before that, we were at First Richardson. He was on staff for 14 years, and I was on that same staff for 10 years, and that's my home church. And, you know, I never expected that we would get to go back to Richardson and our children would be able to. Our daughter started kindergarten in Richardson, and she graduated from high school in Richardson.
Wow.
Son started he was in the 4th grade when we moved to Richardson, and he graduated from high school there. So they did not have a lot of moving around.
So a stable home life and stable community and neighborhood. Yeah, not everybody gets that. You're right. Did you have 2.5 children?
No, not really. No.
Just checking. Okay. I imagine, what do you think Northaven will look like in 25 years? Where do you think we're going? What direction would you like? Maybe I should back off on that one. I don't know.
No, it's all right.
It's a good question. Good question.
It's a very good question.
Well, I hope, I don't know what it would be, but my hope is that it will continue to nurture that progressive theological position and stance and be a beacon for that, and also be able to and do that in a spiritually deep way, that we're more attuned to the Spirit and God's guidance, and that we are certainly active socially in the best way possible, which is a little bit of what we have now, but I'd like to see that deepen and grow.
Yeah. I'm sorry. There are a lot of things that we could be doing if people were just encouraged and motivated to do. And I think about environmental things. Our daughter and I talk all the time about, are we using environmentally friendly materials in our landscaping, for instance? Are we recycling at the church? Are we encouraging people to recycle? Are we putting out information about that would help people to do those things? Just a variety of things that we could be We talk about issues. We talk, and I think that's probably in Northaven's culture from the beginning. Is we talk about stuff, and occasionally we do something. I would like to see us do more things. Still talk, but also take action.
Okay.
And not just go to meetings. Or because sometimes you just go to meetings, you talk about issues, and you go home. And that doesn't really, it raises people's awareness, but it doesn't really solve any problems.
Okay. Well, I don't know if I'm going to be here in 25 years, but I would really like to come to that church in 25 years. It sounds like exactly what we need to do. So thank you for those thoughtful comments. Let's see. I don't have much time left, so I'm going to ask you just one more, maybe two more questions. What brings you joy?
I think I answered that in the first question about happiness.
Okay.
Working with my hands, discussing theology, working outside.
Okay. How about you, Karen?
Well, I thought about this question because I thought, joy.
Yeah.
But I think for me, it's usually a social kind of time. A holiday time when we end up with 11 people at our table.
Oh.
We sit and talk for 3 hours, or a fun wedding reception where everybody's dancing, and the kids are out there dancing with the grandpa, and I was thinking about this morning, when we had our 50th wedding anniversary back 7 years ago, we managed to have people from almost every place we've lived were there, and some people who were at our wedding were there, and it was really and family, and it was really a great joy to have all those people together and to share memories. And Ben had put together a slideshow, and I was surprised at people who stood and watched, pictures of our kids, and they don't even know, well, they know Susie, but they don't know our son. But that was a joyful time.
Okay. I'm going to have just one last question for both of you. And I don't think it's a modeling question, but anyway, how would you like to be remembered?
I thought about that this morning while walking my dog and having my time of thoughtful meditation, I suppose. I would like to be remembered as someone who helped other people. And I'm thinking particularly of people I taught in child development, who work in child care or are going to be teachers, or even volunteer Sunday school teachers who were able to find their own gifts and find a path, and that I help them in whatever way to find their passion, so they could pursue their dreams.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Yes.
Remembered as being loving and thoughtful and helpful in whatever way.
Great. I think, and inquisitive. That's what I'm listening to all the things you're interested in, and the things you're interested in are finite, and you will always be learning and being very inquisitive and learning more. And not only that, but sharing what you learn with other people. And the people from Northaven say thank you. Thank you to both of you for how much you've given to the church, how much you've changed people's lives. And I don't think it's going to end, even if you decide never to go to church again.
Well, thank you for your skills as an interviewer.
Yeah, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. And I miss seeing you in person. I certainly do. And so I hope that these interviews get out so that people can connect in a more intimate and real way to hear your real voices and your real opinions. So thank you very, very much.
Thank you very much, Susan.